Welcome to the speaker series. We actually did an extra one in September. We're so excited to be able to do this. When we find topics that are really front of mind, we want to share them, and why wait? If we can do an extra one, we do it. And that's what we were able to do with our friend Eli. Before I introduce Eli, I did want to make sure that all of you know that our speaker series, oh gosh, we couldn't do it without our education sponsors. And we are so grateful to West, who is our presenting sponsor today. And then our supporting sponsors are Daiichi Sankyo, Merck, and GSK. And, just a little bit of the inner workings of Unite for Her. We have done over 26 virtual events. These speaker series and Ask the Experts have been on fire, and the community just loves them, loves them, loves them. So the more we can bring to the community, the more we do. We archive them, keep them at our Her library. So that way we know it's really a place that people can go for incredible trusted resources. And that is so valuable for us. As you are listening in, you're going to see that Eli is going to be on the farm today. So just keep your microphones mute. We might have, a little bit in and out of connection, but that's only because she's walking around. So just stay patient. It seems like she has a really good connectivity there. And we should have a really good time. I love this episode. I'm glad I got to host you today, Eli.
Yes. So happy to be here.
Yeah.
Buddy, are we live?
Yes. Not yet. I'm going to do a little housekeeping for everyone just to make sure we are live though. Everybody, we're up and rolling.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, use the chat, ask the questions in the chat. Feel free to just, make sure if something comes front of mind, ask us. We are happy to interrupt, and I'll watch the chat and I can let Eli know that we have a question that might be relative to what she is doing right there in the farm. So very interactive. We love that. Make sure you mute yourself. And if you have a question and you really want to talk, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. We're definitely recording, which I had talked about, and that will be in Her library. And also know that next speaker series is actually going to be October the 5th. It is at 6 o'clock via Zoom. You can register on there, and we are going to be featuring Dr. Dela Cruz from MedStar in Washington, D.C. And she's going to be addressing nipple sparing surgery and the progress that has been made, which has been extraordinary. And I know for me personally, I wished I had that, 18 years ago. Just have not, right? And I love when I can see such progress, especially for, those of us that are undergoing these types of surgeries. So a little bit about today. You guys are in for such a treat. You're going to be on the farm at Lancaster Pharmacy. All of you that are in our program, you're going to see I have Eli side by side with us. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the master, the herbalist, the one that makes all of your salves and teas that you get in the Her Care box. And I want to tell you, thousands. I'll be like, Eli, can you send out another 2,500? And she has to make sure she has the crops done and has been really keeping up with us on this national expansion. So Eli, A+, because we have given you a big goal to reach, over the months. Eli is the founder of Lancaster Pharmacy. She's an extraordinary dedicated farmer and a trusted herbalist at the pharmacy. She provides all of our calendula salve and healing tea, and we do all different types of oils. And if you ever heard of the medicinal share, it's called a CSM. We love that. It's a community medicinal share. You'll get bath salts and toothpaste and all different types of elixirs and tonics and the fire breath. Is that what that one's called?
Fire cider. Yeah, hot breath. Fire cider.
Oh, I love that one. And that is definitely always on my list. I always feel like, go for that when you want to buy the gift that you're like, what should I get somebody that's unique? I love that one. So hopefully you still offer that, right, Eli, on the website?
We do. Yes. We're going to talk about it today. Yes.
Good. Well, I am going to put you front and center, and everyone, let's enjoy the farm. So Eli, I'll let you take it from here.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Such an honor to be with you all. The last time we did this, it was spring. So I love that we're really staying on track with the seasons changing. And I'm standing right now in a wild pollinator meadow I have goldenrod behind me. Other plants you'll see beside me, this is milkweed. And the milkweed right now is starting to
Oh.
fluff its seed out. And you can see that this will just get caught in the wind and start blowing around. And this is one of the most important ones for sustaining monarch caterpillars. They feed on this plant.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
it's gorgeous. So I just love to show everybody like where we are. But this farm that we moved to in the fall is a 25-acre farm, and I'd say about half of it is in some kind of conservation program or protected, just as like meadow native pollinator habitat for all of the beneficial insects that we need, and also wildlife. It's important to us that, as we're farming, we're also keeping more wild spaces. So I just wanted to talk just a moment about goldenrod, because this is a wild plant, but it's also very medicinal. I think a lot of people confuse this plant with ragweed, which causes all the allergy symptoms. And goldenrod is actually very helpful at helping with allergies. So it's considered a natural antihistamine, which means you can make a tea from it. You could take it as a tincture, and a tincture is a much more concentrated form of the herb in an extract form, whether that's an alcohol base or could also be in glycerin. So anyways, there's loads of goldenrod out right now. You can dry this at home, drink it as a tea. It doesn't have much flavor, but it is very beneficial. And it's also good for skin. It's good for the respiratory system. And I just think it's such a beautiful plant. And it's also called goldenrod because it's golden.
Oh, I love it. It is beautiful. It's all over right now. I feel like
It
it
really
just lights
is.
up
Yeah.
the sky.
Yeah. It's just like covering a meadowscape. And close by to the goldenrod, I'm going to walk us over to another wild patch that has loads of medicinal herbs in it, which is called stinging nettle. And if people aren't familiar with stinging nettle, they might also know it as burn hazel. When I was growing up, everybody called it burn hazel. And it's because if you do touch it, it will burn. There's tiny little hairs on this plant that cause a reaction. Here it is. It's one of my favorite plants, especially for women's reproductive health, because it's loaded with everything you could possibly need. I call it nature's pharmacy plant. It has calcium, magnesium, potassium, vitamin C, like wonderful trace minerals. And it just grows plentiful, typically along wooded edges. So here you can kind of see behind me, there's, woodland, or it likes to grow beside stream banks. And it'll just kind of grow in a nice lush patch. So
I love it.
The cool thing about nettle, and I can get next to it and I'm not going to get the stinging sensation because I have clothes on. If I was to like rub my hand on it, I would definitely get some of the stinging sensation. But that is part of its medicinal action, which is it's bringing circulation to any part of your body. So some people who have arthritis will actually rub themselves against the stinging nettle to kind of promote more circulation in those areas. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also has natural antihistamine properties. So this is another great one to use during allergy season. You could drink it as a tea. We also make tincture of this. It's in most all of our teas in our tea line because it's just such a wonderful nutritive herb. And you can also eat it, which is super cool. So I love herbs that you don't just have to drink or consume as a medicine. You can also eat them as a medicine. So the way you would prepare this is you would blanch it with some hot water. You could just pour boiling hot water over it, or bring a saucepan with water to boil and just dip it in for a few seconds and it'll take the stinging hairs off of it. And then you can cook it like any other hearty green, like saute it like you would kale or spinach, and you can flavor it. We have a recipe we love to make at home, which is more like a saag, like a Indian flavored saag with, yummy like turmeric and cumin and garlic and onions and then nettle. So it's definitely a very medicinal food that you can consume. And this plant grows in the early spring, and then it goes to seed, and then you wouldn't want to harvest it once it's in its seed stage, but now it's also blooming. Well, it's not blooming, it's growing in its leaf stage. So this is when we would harvest it. So we're getting ready to harvest all this stinging nettle here, which will go into our teas. So our nourishment, which I know we've offered through Unite for Her, the number one ingredient in our nourishment is stinging nettle. So I just wanted to make that connection. And in case I thought it'd be fun to have some of the teas right next door to herbs. So
Perfect.
yeah, this is nourishment is made up of nettles, alfalfa, oat straw, mint, and red raspberry leaf. So it's just fun to see the plants that then when they're dried, they kind of look all the same. So I like to kind of tell a story when they're fresh of what they look like and how they smell and how they taste. So if anybody has I'm going to walk to another area of the farm. If anybody has any questions about stinging nettle or goldenrod or native pollinator plants, be happy to answer any questions. Or of maybe, I know I did talk about tinctures and teas. Feel free to ask specific questions about how we consume these herbs.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Use the chat, ladies. I know I have a question, so I will start you off. So stinging nettle, I felt like, is that something that if you saw raw, right, you definitely have to blanch it. You can't eat that raw, correct?
No, yeah, you would have
Yeah.
to. Yeah, you would have to have some kind of heat.
Like if somebody made a mistake and just like started cutting it up and putting it in a salad or something,
Yeah, I do hear
would
of some
that be
people
dangerous?
I hear of some people who will put it in a smoothie and blend it. And I think the process of pulverizing the plant, like maybe if it was in a Vitamix, it would be okay. It's just you really have to find a way to break down all the hairs that cause that stinging sensation.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you end up drying that for the tea. So obviously the
Yes.
drying process removes all those as well?
Yes. Yep. It's like
Okay.
as soon as the plant is dried. Now, we will feel a slight tingling when we're processing the leaf, but as soon as it's broken down from its stem and the leaf is kind of turned into a traditional like loose leaf form, the stinging sensation completely goes away. So it's okay. Ooh, and I just have
Okay.
to share. So here's some beautiful asters blooming right now. This is another
Oh,
native
so pretty.
wildflower. And here's a purple aster. Love that. So again, we're just so happy to be creating a space where more beneficial insects and pollinators can have a place, because so much habitat's constantly being, developed and taken away. And we know that
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
many of these, pollinators we're used to are becoming endangered. So it's part of the
Right.
whole
Right.
system we have to take care of here. So
So
that
we
was a
have
great
a
question.
question from Dawn. So Dawn was
Okay.
asking if stinging nettle for edema in feet and ankles, like perhaps like a salve or an oil. So you talked a
That's
little
a
bit about arthritis, right? Like you were saying, like
yes.
some people sort of
Yes.
utilize it that way. It's a great question.
Yes. I wish I knew more about edema, because I believe it would be best consumed internally to have more of the benefit of the plant. Not to say you couldn't use it externally in an oil or a salve. It's something I really don't have enough, background in to make any recommendation, but I feel like internally drinking it as a tea or taking it as a tincture would be probably the best way to have, have a benefit from that.
Okay. And then Christina actually was asking, she heard you talking about harvesting the stinging nettle when it is
Mhm.
in bloom, right? So really the best time of year, just to make sure it's not going to seed. So the best time of year, I mean, right now, or does it actually come up in the spring, in the summer? Like you can
It's a
harvest it
really,
a couple times.
yes, really good question. So yes, we harvest it twice a year. And each time it's before it's setting its seed out. It never really, I guess its flower almost looks like a seed. It doesn't have a color. It really is just looks like little green clusters that form at the very tops of the leaves, like when I was showing you the big stalk.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
So when you start to see little clusters forming, it's too late. It's overly mature and you wouldn't want to harvest it then. Now, I will tell you something that's very cool about stinging nettle at different stages is when it's in that stage and it's starting to form its seed. Nettle seed has been found to help prostate health. So I think it's kind of fascinating that different parts of a plant harvested
Wow.
can work on different parts of the body. So I just wanted to share that interesting
Yeah.
fact. But I would definitely advise to get it when it's more tender. So you're really looking for when the leaves look lush and tender, because when it starts to set its flower and seed out, it's going to look much more woody and spindly, if that makes sense. So we probably, our nettle harvest season is usually in May, the busiest, when it's most prolific. And then it goes through its life cycle. And then we're really not doing anything with nettle until it cools down again. And I guess we're almost in October here. And so I find it's usually very late summer going into early fall is when we harvest it again. So that was a good question.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I
Yeah.
know, Eli, some of us have like, I mean, some of this is wild growing around. And I remember I had lemon balm that was like just growing nonstop in my garden.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I was like, okay, am I going to just pick it and put it in hot water and steep it? Or is it
Mhm.
better to like have it dry? And how long do you dry it for before you're going to use it in a tea?
Yes. So those are great questions also. So my personal preference is if it's fresh, I love to have a tea made of the fresh herbs. So whether you have fresh lemon balm available or nettle to make it fresh. And I think for me, I just love seeing the
Peppermint,
color.
same thing, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Now the flavors do change as they're dried. So it's not to say that um, it's almost maybe your taste, what you prefer. I think that peppermint and lemon balm have a stronger flavor after they've been dried and they're made into a tea. But to me, I just love seeing the color of,
Yeah.
what we call the
I'm with
infusion
you.
after you've
Yep.
steeped the tea. It's like emerald green. It looks like so alive. And, to me, I'm like, wow, I'm drinking this really, potent, powerful,
Elixir.
fresh tea. Yes. It's just like such a
Hmm.
burst of color and, vibrancy. So I'm just a fan of, if it's fresh, I'm going to make the tea that way. Now, I
Okay.
think for
And you get the
most of
same
us,
amount of nutrients, like you'll get the same properties, whether it's fresh or dry.
um, I'm sure there's people who could argue that. I think if you were dosing out a tablespoon of fresh cut leaf of peppermint or lemon balm and compared it to a tablespoon of dried lemon balm or peppermint, it would be stronger if it was dried because there's going to be more plant material in your
Gotcha.
tablespoon, if that makes sense. So to
Yep.
me, what I do is I literally take like a big handful of my fresh herbs when I'm
Right,
making,
right.
a quart of tea, just so I know it's strong and it is going to have more flavor that way. So I would just say, don't be shy when you're making tea from fresh herbs to just,
You need
add
more.
more to your water. Yeah. And I would also, so what I would say the comparison ratio would be for a tablespoon of a tablespoon of dried herb would be
Yeah.
almost the equivalent to a cup of fresh herb, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
So
so
that
good. Yep.
kind
Great
of a
visuals.
reference point. Yeah. And what else did I want to say about tea? Oh, I just
Well, we
always
have,
recommend making sure that people steep it long enough. I think sometimes people just pour the hot water on and then start drinking, but I think it's always important to at least wait 15 minutes with a lid covering whether you're putting it in a saucepan or you're steeping it in a tea ball in a cup, just to always cover it because it helps to keep the volatile oils of that herb in your water as opposed to it just, evaporating.
oh,
So
good, good. All right,
yes.
a couple more comments, and then
Hmm.
we can move on. And we're going to be a
Sure.
whole hour on tea. So there was one that, which is great because Lynn was talking about, or Linda said that a native Italian told her to put stinging needle or nettle in risotto or ravioli or
Ooh,
frittata as a substitute for spinach or chard. So I love that idea. And you're
yes.
cooking off all of those hairs. And then
Yep.
Karen was talking about she has the totally Tulsi tea and how
Hmm.
long after receiving the teas are they best. And I'll tell you, I have your teas for a long time and they're still amazing, but I know there's probably a shelf life, right?
Yes, that's a great question. So for tea, if it's dry, see the beautiful thing about having dried tea is it's obviously going to be much more available for a longer period of time because it can sit, stable on our shelf, unlike fresh herbs, which have to live in a refrigerator. So I would recommend if somebody is receiving a bag of our tea, to use that bag of tea within ideally 2 years, but you could stretch 3 years because we're making our teas fresh within the first year. We're harvesting, we're drying, we're sending them out in teas because we want to make sure people have the longest possible time to consume that.
Wow.
So that's the nice thing about when you're preserving herbs that then you have a longer period to use them as opposed to feeling like, oh, I have to use this in 1 month or even just 1 week. And a lot of people, if they get into trying to make some of their own herbal medicine at home, is they'll tincture, and tincturing is when you're extracting your fresh herbs into some kind of solvent. So whether that's vinegar or alcohol or glycerin, and then something like that, like grain alcohol as an extraction method, can last indefinitely because there's nothing's going to break down in a very high proof grain alcohol.
Wow.
Now
Wow.
a vinegar might only last 1 to 2 years because it's not as stable, and glycerin is around 2 to 3 years also. So you get to kind of choose when you're if you're going to experiment with making extractions, which kind of solvent you would want to use. And we could do a whole class on
On
tincturing.
tea. Yeah. And
Yes.
tincturing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, great questions on just how to use things and how
Hmm.
how long can we have them sit around before they need to be retired or used. So that's a good
Yep.
question.
Yep.
So I have made my way to another part of the farm, and I just wanted everybody to see this lovely structure behind me. This is called a high tunnel. And a high tunnel is a way that we extend our growing season because we are in the mid-Atlantic. And our growing season is shorter than if we were living in the tropics. And we love to grow things that are, originate from the tropics, like ginger. And ginger is such a wonderful medicinal root crop. We're also growing turmeric in this tunnel. So I just wanted to point out
Wow.
these beautiful plants. So this is turmeric. You can see the leaf looks different than its neighbor here, which is our ginger plant. And see, ginger has a much finer leaf. And we grow it in these, it's almost like a raised bed that we're growing it in because now I don't want to, if the soil is nice and loose here, and we're constantly mounding it. And I'm actually not going to dig this one up because turmeric takes so long to grow, and we're still only going to get what's considered baby turmeric. It's almost like these little fingers off of the root that we're familiar with if you're to purchase it. But I wanted to show you because every day now we've been harvesting our ginger. So
Oh, wow.
this is considered baby pink ginger, and you can probably figure out why it's called pink ginger because where the stalks are growing, it's this very tender part of the plant. And I have to say, I'm a huge fan of baby ginger because when you're cutting ginger at home, you know how like tough and fibrous it can get. When you have baby ginger like this, you can just slice right through it, and it's just so tender and sweet and smells just like ginger and tastes just like ginger. It's maybe not as spicy, but it has so much fragrance and flavor. So the reason I'm talking about ginger is because yes, it's used in culinary recipes, but it's just such a wonderful medicinal plant because it's considered one of these warming herbs that if you think in the tradition of Ayurvedic tradition, it's a very warming herb, which helps to promote stimulation in the body. And this time of year, as you all can imagine, it's like the seasons are starting to shift. and things are starting to get colder, and we're, this is the time when cold and flu season starts up because our bodies are trying to adjust to the new changes. So to be able to consume herbs like ginger is just such a wonderful way to kind of keep the body warm and help to promote more circulation. Also considered to be a very good immune support herb. And also, oh, are you guys still there?
Yep, there we got you. Yep. That's
yeah,
really beautiful, by the way. That's incredible.
isn't it?
I mean,
So
yes, I am such a fan. So I just love seeing that. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as a baby pink ginger.
I know. And I will tell you, we're sending this out through the CSA shares in the vegetable
Mm,
farm fresh. So if anybody has
awesome.
a produce box, you'll probably be receiving our ginger. And the other thing that we're processing right now is garlic. And I love talking about how food is medicine. Garlic is just, I think everybody knows, just such a wonderful herb, as well as, item in our kitchens. And it's considered an antiviral. It's considered great for dealing with fungal infections, bacterial infections, like any kind of infection. If you just chew on a little bit of garlic, you'll be amazed at how you can rid your issues. Now, what we do is to make this a more pleasant thing of like these two things, instead of just like eating them raw, which would be like the best thing we could do, we make a really cool product, which you were talking about, Sue, which is, we call it our
Hmm.
fire cider. And what we do is we chop up all of these wonderful that really just like natural antivirals, antibacterials, immune stimulant herbs. And I'll just tell you some of the other ingredients we have in our fire cider. So it's ginger, onion, garlic, horseradish, turmeric, jalapeno pepper, and lemon.
Wow.
I know many people who make their own fire cider, and you can get very creative. You could add other herbs. You could add, I know people who add elderberries, who will add echinacea, who will add anything that they're feeling like they want to add to their fire cider tonic, because this is extracted in vinegar, apple cider vinegar. And, I really do always encourage people to use something like this within 2 years. But just taking like a tablespoon of this a day during cold and flu season has done wonders for me. I know that some people have fun using this product by turning it into a salad dressing, because it does have a lot of kick.
Yes, yes.
I know some people who love to dare each other to be like, oh, how many shots of fire cider can you, drink at a time? And you really are just kind of, giving your body a big boost of, fiery, circulatory, power in your body, and fighting off any kind of infection or cold at that time of year. So love fire cider, and it is the time of fire cider.
Yeah.
Well, at this moment, ask if anybody has any questions about the ingredients or what fire cider is. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start you off again, and then I'll wait for the community to come in because
Yeah.
I love this fire cider. I have to get online now and order my medicinal share. And I do remember making a salad dressing out of that, Eli. I would add olive oil to it, and it
Yeah.
was amazing, amazing, and some lemon peel, and it was so good. So I now it's like it's all coming back. I'm like, oh right, I did used to do that. I have to get back in my habit of getting your Lancaster Pharmacy share. Can you tell me how that works again and tell our
Yeah.
audience?
Yes. So we have created a 4-season package, and it's we spun it off of the community supported agriculture share program, where it's subscription based. And typically when you get a vegetable share through a CSA like Lancaster Farm Fresh offers, you typically get a weekly box of whatever the farmer is harvesting at that time of year. And we decided that people don't need something weekly, but we really started to think about seasonal wellness, where what are people needing at home to really build out their home apothecaries. And so we really break down our share program into, 4 seasons. So we did just finish making the fall herbal medicine share, and you can actually still sign up for yours through Lancaster Farm Fresh Cooperative. I believe if you sign up now, they have their own kind of rotation of when the packages go out to different pickup spots within your, locality. So I'm sure through their website, you could type in your area and figure out what's the closest pickup spot to you. So thank you for mentioning that. And in our share package, we typically do things, I would say between like 4 to 6 items that correlate to that season. So this fall share, I believe, has cold care in it. We have, I don't want to actually say the wrong thing, so I'm not going to say everything right now, but if you went to Farm Fresh's page on the fall medicine share, it will list all of the things that are in that package. And then we do have a winter package that will be coming. And so we've really kind of come up with things that we feel are really important to use at that time of year. So, in the spring, we're really focusing on things that are helping to transition from winter into spring, helping to invigorate the body to do the natural cleanse and detox it needs to go through. In the summer, it's a lot of obviously natural skin care. We're doing things for the adrenal system because everybody's going through the heat of the summer and adrenal burnout. And then come fall, it's much more like cold care based, a lot of immune support. And then winter is kind of a continuation of more immune support and cold care products. So we really do try to cover the bases. And so it will include things everywhere from teas, tonics, we'll do tinctures, and then skin and body products. So I hope that answered your question, Sue.
Yeah, absolutely. I was Googling just so I could put it in the chat for everybody. And it looks like you have to get on Lancaster Pharmacy, go to the fall page, and then you will see a fall herbal medicine package. So I'm going to put that link in the chat so people can find it easily. And
Yep.
It looks amazing. So that's good. And you can actually get your orders in up until the week of November the 2nd, I think is right.
Yes, we extended the window through Farm Fresh. And I will say, when you do the package share, you're definitely getting, like a wonderful bulk discount on all of the things that we sell, because if you got them as individual items, you're paying like the retail price, versus when you do program, you're kind of more like getting the bulk discount on the package of goods. I'd like to tell people that's
perfect.
Yes.
No, I love it.
So since we were talking about just general cold and flu wellness and fall care items, I thought I'd walk you all to an area of our field where we're growing a really awesome herb called Hyssop. And Hyssop is a Mediterranean herb. It kind of grows a lot like lavender, and it's a woody perennial. And we're lucky that it comes back every year, because I know most people who grow lavender, we all struggle for our lavender plants to come back every year. But I thought
it's so funny you're saying that. I have trouble with lavender. I have so much trouble with lavender.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it.
I always tell people, don't give up, because, you might just need to put it in a different place. And if you have a spot near your house, next to a wall or any place that's a little more protected, it will definitely come back. Or if it has, an area where you could actually cover the area around it with sand and some pebbles, the radiant heat that gather around the base of the plant would help it survive. So there's definitely some things you can do to try to keep your lavender thriving. So don't give up. We are in the mid-Atlantic. To be able to grow some lavender too. So anyways, I wish you could all smell this amazing aromatic herb, but this is Hyssop and has these sweet little purple flowers. I'm going to zoom in closer. And the wonderful thing about Hyssop, so if I go like this, it looks like, a little salvia flower. It has these little purple and it just smells so delicious. This is one that actually can be used in culinary recipes. I know that traditionally it's trying to make sure you can see it. There we go. It's been used to flavor and tenderize meat. It's a very ancient herb. I know it has a lot of references in the Bible for cleansing. So it has a reputation that has, been around for a long time. And the way we use this plant is it's one of our main ingredients in our cold care, because its medicinal action is that it's an expectorant. So anytime we have mucus from any kind of, reaction that we're having, whether it's even to allergies or, pollen, that, the body creates more mucus to deal with pollen. And if you have just like a really wet cough going on, or you are just dealing with a lot of congestion overall in the body, hyssop is your herb to use, because it helps to remove the mucus in the body. And so it helps to dry it out, but also remove it. So we like to always use this one in our cold care tea for people who struggle with asthma. I always recommend hyssop is another good one, because it's just great for opening up, the lung and respiratory system. So I wanted everybody to see how pretty it is. I'm hoping you can see that. And it just
it looks great.
Of lavender. So this one does come back for us, which we're really happy about. So I love having our hyssop patch. And since we've moved the farm, we're slowly like building out these fields where I'm like, oh, that's the cold care tea field, and that's our lifting lemon tea field.
Oh, that's so good.
The herbs, we just always want to grow as many as we can, so then we can make more teas. And I'm happy to talk about, because I know that Totally Tulsi is maybe one of the more popular ones with Unite for Her, because we actually created that tea for your members, that we could talk more about that one. I could show everybody what holy basil looks like when it's growing, but I'm happy.
I was just going to ask you about that. I love the holy basil.
Yeah. So I'll go walk over to the holy basil field. And while I'm walking, this is a good chance if anybody has any, particular questions of things that they'd like to hear more about.
That's great. Yep. Put them in the chat. And then the holy basil, I do remember, I actually got a couple plants from you, Eli, and I just love that tea. That tea was so good. I would do it fresh, and I would just steep it in the summer and make more of a cold tea, but it was really good for like your estrogen levels and your hormones. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
That is how I remember holy basil.
It probably has, if you looked at the list of all of its medicinal benefits, it's got the longest list out of any herb I know of. I mean, from headaches to insomnia to hormonal imbalance to upset stomach to, you name it. It's an incredible herb that, and I think one of the biggest ones is just kind of a mental clarity and, emotional uplifting plant. And, it makes sense that in India, in the Hindu tradition, typically there would always be a Tulsi. Well, so Tulsi is the Ayurvedic name for holy basil. You would have a holy basil plant growing by your front door. And I love this, this tradition where you're supposed to, every time you enter your home or you leave your home, you're supposed to interact with the plant, touch it, give it prayers, and it will support you. And I just think that's such a great reminder of, entering your home, leaving your home, that, have a connection with a sacred plant like that is so special. So I think, when I learned that, I was like, oh, that just makes so much sense. Now I still haven't put it right by my front door, but at least we have
you have a whole garden, so it's okay.
A big benefit. So I'll just show you here. There's the holy basil field.
Wow.
So we've been harvesting this. I will tell you, I'm so happy. We have probably 3 different plantings of this. So when we're farming, especially herb farming, we're constantly trying to make sure that we have as many things growing throughout the growing season as possible. So instead of just planting something once, harvesting it once, and then just waiting till next year, we're always thinking about how can we do another succession of this. So I'm really happy that we have 3 successions of our holy basil growing because we always want to make sure we have enough tea for Unite for Her. It makes us so happy that we're,
Yay.
oh, and do you see here are the geese? Geese are overhead.
Oh, so good.
That's such
What
a
a
sign.
beautiful view.
Oh, I know. We're so lucky
I'm
to be here.
just watching you on the farm is healing and uplifting. I feel like I'm having that holy basil right now, just taking it all in.
So happy. Well, it's been a long process to get to where we are right now. I think we were renting land for 12 years and our lease had come up, and we knew that we needed to move the farm, and we were pretty nervous that we wouldn't be able to find our next home. But it kind of all came together at the strike of midnight last fall. And friends
Wow.
of ours were looking to retire off of this beautiful farm that they had stewarded for about 25 years. And so we're so, oh, here's some more. Here we go.
It's
I love
awesome.
that. It's like
So
a
for the yeah,
That's great. So
for
what
the
I love is,
Tulsi tea,
yeah,
I'm just curious, that has to be planted every year, right? You can't, it doesn't
yeah,
come back on its own like
yeah,
rosemary. I don't have to replant my rosemary, right? It just
yes,
comes
yeah.
back. So I'm
So
just curious, even my thyme comes back, which is really fun. I think I
yeah,
get lucky. I might
we,
get a little lucky there, but
yeah. I mean, it's so nice when plants will function as perennials because yeah, it's the idea of, the difference of the two is perennials, it comes back every year. And annuals are crops that will only have one season. So unfortunately, in our region, holy basil is an annual. Now, again, if we, lived in a different part of the world, it would be perennial. But we
okay.
find it so easy to grow, like, any other common basil that you might grow in your garden. It's fairly easy to start. It's just a matter of just keeping up with it. So we find that it's constantly wanting to go to seed. See this? This is its seed head.
Yes, 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 yes.
But this is actually the prime time to be harvesting this plant for, all the properties we want it to. So we'll probably be harvesting this patch on Friday. And when we harvest our holy basil, we bring the tractor out and we kind of load up as many pounds as we can and we get them up in our drying room. And then within a few weeks after it's been dried, then we go through the process of stripping the leaf from the stem. And then we do in our Totally Tulsi blend the holy basil with some other herbs like milky oats, which is a wonderful nourishing herb for the endocrine system. I believe we also use alfalfa, which is another very nourishing herb. And alfalfa here, you know what? I brought the tea with me just because I didn't want to forget. So
Yeah,
these are
yeah.
totally
Love it.
Tulsi. So alfalfa, raspberry leaf, and milky oats. Raspberry leaf
Nice.
is a wonderful one for just uterine health. So yeah, it was so fun when we were combining our efforts with your program just to think about, well, what's a tea that really would mean would help women going through their whole treatment and recovery process. And I just love that we could focus on holy basil as well as add some of those other very nourishing herbs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you tell me, where is the farm located now, Eli?
Yep.
We got that
So
question.
yeah, so we are located in Millersville, which is about 15 minutes from downtown Lancaster City. And I guess so our goal is next year that we'll have some regular open hours to the public where we would love to have a little farm apothecary store where people can come see the farm and purchase some of our products. We just were so busy moving the farm, the physical farm, opening up fields that we just, couldn't open up to the public. But I will say we're going to have a fall farm festival, October 22nd. So if you want to come see our farm, we'll do a few
Nice.
tours in person and we'll have some fun games and activities that are family friendly and have our little market stand set up. So if anybody's curious and they don't want to wait till next year, you could come out on October 22nd. And that if you go to our I know we posted it on social media, so Instagram or Facebook. We did put an announcement there, and we'll be sending out more information about, directions and how to get to us. But yeah, we'd love to have people come out and see this special place that we're at.
Nice, good.
Mhm.
And then we had Karen actually said raspberry leaf, and I think I'm with her because she might have wanted to put a question mark on that because I can't think what raspberry leaf is. So
So
it's not the
raspberry
leaf of
leaf,
the raspberry
it is.
plant,
It is.
is it
That's what's,
really?
yep. It's so cool that, we're all familiar with eating raspberries, but
Yeah.
the leaf of the raspberry plant is very medicinal. So, um, typically, if you were to harvest raspberry leaf, you would do it before, the plant is fruiting. um, and then after it's done fruiting, the energy will go back into the leaf again. You could harvest,
Oh, nice.
after raspberry fruit season. But it's just such a wonderful women's herb. I always, tell, any woman at any time of her, her cycle in her life, it's just such a good builder for uterine health. And
Mm,
it's just great for the skin, for the hair, for everything in the body, really. So it's just a really great staple herb for drinking, in any tea. And men too. I mean, it's just a wonderful nutritive herb.
yeah.
So it doesn't taste like much, but it's just a
Oh,
wonderful herb.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I need to get some Tulsi tea. I will tell you, I
Yeah.
learned something new because I didn't realize Tulsi was the Indian name for,
Yes.
I didn't know that,
Yeah.
for holy
Yeah.
basil. Yeah,
Yes. You
nice.
got it. You got it. So I have, let's see here. So we talked about fire cider. We talked about some of our teas. Um, one other, um, one other product that we recently made, I just did want to talk about because, we just recently finished harvesting is, elderberries, and we make an elderberry syrup. And we're entering, fall cold season here. And this is, similar bottle here. We cook our elderberries into a syrup. And so we harvest. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk to the meadow and show you what an elderberry shrub looks like, because I know some people are always like, well, I know elderberries, but where, how and where do they grow? Now we have finished harvesting them. So we're just going to see the shrub itself. It almost looks more like a tree. So anyways, elderberries are wonderful, high in antioxidant fruit that we can harvest in the late summer going into fall. And what we do is when it's elderberry season, we harvest all the berries we can find at that time, and we leave some for the birds because the birds love to eat them too. But what we do is then we freeze the berries because, when you're an herbalist, you're always trying to think about, that you're going to want to use something over a long period of time, because for us, here it's like we're entering fall, but all through the winter we're going to be wanting to make elderberry syrup fresh. So what we do is freeze our berries after we harvest them, and then we'll make batches fresh, every about every month we're making new batches of elderberry syrup to get us through cold and flu season. And elderberries have been considered the medicine chest of the people. And I love that, in folk herbalism, that it's considered that because it is so good for common cold symptoms, flu, like fever. Um, it's because it's high in antioxidant, it can help fight infection if you are sick. So it'll speed up the recovery process. And it's very tasty. So it's a good one for at home if you have young children. Sometimes it's difficult for them to get excited to take medicine or, some kind of syrup, but it is preserved in a syrup, and our syrup is actually a glycerin base. If you were to make it at home, you could use honey. We've chosen not to use honey in ours only because it doesn't have the same stability that glycerin does. And our goal is that, you can use something that's stable at least for 6 months for the syrups. That's what we recommend. So I just think it's such a wonderful, wild, medicinal shrub that it is native. It grows plentifully in our region, and we're always trying to grow more of it. So our goal this year, since we've moved, is to make new divisions and propagate more elderberry just so we have enough. And in the spring, late spring, we get elder flower off the elderberry tree, and I'm coming up to an area where, oh, it's not the, doesn't look the happiest right now. Oh goodness. Yeah. So if you can see this elder tree just has seen better days, but just to give you perspective, it's a very big bush, and off this bush, oh, here, I'm going to pull. So you can almost see, this is a little, hopefully there. Okay. So this is the umbel on the elder tree, and this is what we picked the berries off of. It kind of looks like a spidery little umbel there, and that had all the little berries
Like
on
a
it.
grapevine, right? Almost like a
Yeah,
grapevine.
it has yeah, it's, well, I guess I would almost relate it more to if you've seen Queen Anne's lace, like a little lacy
Oh, gotcha.
flower
Okay.
head. It's hard to see because it is getting dark, but if I put it like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, the fruit would be on the tips of those little plants. And I'm sorry, I don't have fresh elderberries to show you, but either way, it's just another wonderful fall remedy to be using if you are starting to feel a little sick. And it's another thing, kind of like the fire cider, that you can take it as a preventative, where you could just take, a teaspoon every day, just have a little elderberry, and it will kind of really help to boost your immune system as you're, dealing with new things coming at you while, everybody's getting sick around you. And I know for folks, during COVID, there was definitely controversy in the herbal community about the use of elderberry, during COVID, for COVID. And I think what I have taken from it, and what I think most people have taken from it, is it just really helps to support the immune system. So, whether, however you're having a reaction to whatever virus, or if it's a bacterial reaction, elderberry is going to help speed up your recovery process. And that's what we're all looking for during these times. So yes, that's another one I wanted to share with everybody. And I know the sun's starting to go down, so I have a feeling we're probably getting a little closer to our time here. So I just wanted to make sure I could answer.
Yeah, no, your time is actually perfect. We have about 5 more minutes. And when I think about the elderberries, so you know how so many berries come out that, they're probably just as rich in nutrients as your blueberry or your raspberry, but they have these really, sexy names like goji berries, and you have to have this type of berry. But I think of elderberry. Is that a berry that you would buy fresh and eat? Like, could
That's
you do that, or dried? Like, do
that's a
they have dried elderberries now?
You can find dried elderberries. I don't, so the place you would find dried elderberries would be a health food store. Any place, like you're probably in your area, Chester County, would be like Kimberton Whole Foods. Any kind of health food market would most likely carry dried elderberries that then you could cook at home into a syrup that you could make. The other way that I was saying that we preserve them is by freezing them. But I will tell you, it's nearly impossible to sell fresh elderberries and find them because they break down so quickly. Like, unlike grapes or fruit in general is just tough, in any kind of market setting, because you really have to consume them within a few days. So unfortunately, you just don't see fresh elderberry for sale in markets. Now, what we do during elderberry season, we didn't do it this year because we were kind of with a limited supply, but next year we'll post on social media, hey, we're getting close to elderberry harvest time, and we'll have people who will just say, I'd like a pound, or I'd like 3 pounds, and people will ask to reserve part of our harvest for things that they
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
We had a woman who was like, I'm
Oh,
making
that's
elderberry,
fun.
I get elderberries from my.
Yeah.
So yes, it's definitely possible to get fresh
Or
elderberries.
jam.
Yes, jams, another
Mhm.
great use it. So I think it's just about finding a source, whether somebody who has some growing, in their garden, or you can contact us, or or you'll find them dried. But it really is awesome to use them when they're fresh, which is usually
Okay. And what do
late.
they taste like, Eli?
They're not what you would think. They're a little bit tart and bitter.
Tart? Okay,
Yeah,
that's what and not like the
yes.
syrup.
not like the syrup. The syrup's really coming from either honey or your,
Right.
whatever your, sweetener is to preserve that, to make it into
Okay.
syrup. Sugar, that's how, people
Almost
end up.
like our rhubarb, right? Like our
Yep.
rhubarb is so
Yep.
sour that
Yep.
you really have to,
Yes.
add a little
We
sugar to that baby.
You're so right. So and again, we have to train ourselves to appreciate flavors, even when they're not
Yes,
sweet.
yes.
So we at home with our frozen stock, we'll sometimes just throw like, a handful of elderberries into our smoothies just as like another way to consume them. And it's obviously not that sweet like a syrup would be.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
different ways you can prepare them.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Eli, thank you so much. I don't know if there's any more questions that any of you have. Know that you can always email us. You can email me directly. I'm always interested in these questions. I love the farm. I love gardening. And I'm just so happy that we got to do this in the fall, in the golden hour, as you say, right?
Yes, I think it would be so fun we could do a winter walk and I could talk about trees and
Yeah.
all those
I
other
would
things.
love that. I
Yeah,
know it is.
so
Someone in
much.
the chat said it sounded magical, and it
No.
is magical. I
Yeah.
just think to get out and just take that break and, take a sun break, take a farm break, whatever you want to call it, but just to
Take a walk.
experience the nature, take a walk,
Yes.
say
Yes.
hello to your plants, wish them well,
Yes. Always. I
do all
know
of
because
that.
I think we all know that our days are often so busy. And I think especially as women, it's so important for us to learn how to just take down the level
Yeah.
of stress that can happen in a day and just find a way to just like, even if it's just like, the weed that's growing on the sidewalk next to where you're walking, just to like connect with a plant and just help to center yourself and think about, where did that plant come
Yeah.
from? And maybe it's medicine or what animal is, it's supporting, there's just so many ways that if we connect with plants that it really helps us too.
Yeah. I can hear it. I can feel you. I can feel your positive energy there. And I am going to do so. I'm going to go out in my garden and see what I can find.
Great.
Yeah.
Love that.
Oh, so
Okay.
good.
Well, it's
Well,
been
thank
so
you,
nice.
Eli.
Thank you,
Yeah, you're
Sue.
welcome. And maybe we'll do a winter walk. I think that sounds
Sounds fun.
glorious.
Okay.
Yeah. All
Take
right.
care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, Unite for Community. Actually, you can see I might be a little bit blurry because the sun is shining behind me and coming down. It's setting actually. So I'm actually outside. So Eli might be happy about that doing this broadcast tonight. Again, our education digital series is brought to you by West and also our supporting sponsors, Daiichi Sankyo and Merck and GSK. And we can't do it without them. So we are so grateful for it. Next speaker series, October the 6th. So please keep that in mind. We would like to see you join us. It is going to be with Dr. Dela Cruz, who is from MedStar Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And she is a breast surgeon that really has done a great deal to preserve our nipples when we are getting that surgery, and can just talk about all of the progress that has been made, which I am so interested in doing that interview. So everybody have a great night. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.